I'd like to welcome everybody to the November 1st meeting of the Revere Conservation Commission. It's 7 p.m., so we'll start. First item on the agenda is a roll call. Member Robert Cassidy.
Here.
Member Joseph Lavalley.
Here.
Member Vincent Lauria.
Here.
Member Nick Malason.
Here.
And I'm Andrew B. DeSantis, Chair. I've heard from both James Saboni and Ann Raponi. They're not able to be here tonight. Hopefully they get a little better and are able to attend December's meeting. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of October 4th, 2017. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
So move.
Motion by Member Nick Malason. Do I have a second?
Second.
And who is that, Toby?
Doug, yes.
Seconded by Member Robert Cassidy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing notice of intent, 4954 Revere Beach Boulevard. Construction of an 8-story hotel, JBX Developers Incorporated. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Member Nick Malason, seconded by Member Vincent Lauria, to open the public hearing for 4954 Revere Beach Boulevard. All those in favor? Any opposed? Voted in the affirmative. Dave, you're going to present? Turn on the mic. Introduce yourself, please.
Good evening. I'm Dan Burke with Bowler
Oh,
Engineering.
it's Dan?
Dan.
I
Yep.
thought it was Dave, sorry.
No problem. Dan Burke with Bowler Engineering. With me here tonight is Michael Lee with JBX Developers and Mark Wickstead with Bowler Engineering as well. So we're here tonight for the new Revere Hotel. As he said, it's on Revere Beach Boulevard. It is a site that is in land subject to coastal storm flowage, as well as being within the 100-foot buffer to the coastal bank. Little background, it's gone through site plan review committee, who forwarded a favorable recommendation to City Council. The City Council unanimously approved it with conditions.
Make sure you speak into the mic, please, Dan.
Yep, and one of the conditions was Conservation Commission review, so that's why we're here tonight. I'm going to flip to the aerial here. To give you an idea where the site is located, it's a 1/3 acre site, and it sits between Revere Beach Boulevard and Ocean Avenue, both DCR roads. It's currently home to the Shipwreck Lounge, which is now closed. It's about a 1/4 mile north of Elliott Circle, which is represented here, and it's about a 5-minute walk or about a 1/4 mile from the Revere Beach T-stop. There's a commercial property to the north. I believe it's the Ocean Lodge. I think it's currently closed, and a multifamily building to the south. So that gives you a good idea of where that's located. Bringing it down to the project site, on this map, the beach is down here. And then walking up to the beach, we have the seawall and the coast, which is the coastal bank here. Then we walk up to Revere Beach Boulevard, which sits up higher. Then we enter the front of the building, and it drops about 6 feet as we move to Ocean Avenue in the back. About 60% of the site is in the land subject to coastal storm flowage. That line is represented right here. And it is also in the, as I said, is in the the 100-foot buffer to the coastal bank. That buffer line is represented on this map in red. The site is accessed vehicularly from Ocean Avenue. That was one of the conditions of the site plan review, 2 accesses off of Ocean Avenue. Those are represented here and here. One of the stipulations was that no vehicular access come from Revere Beach Boulevard. As for the building itself, it's 175 rooms. It's 8 stories, plus the basement is set down. Elevation-wise, the flood zone that you're seeing in the middle of the site is at about 17.5 elevation, Revere city base elevation. The first floor elevation walking from Revere Beach Boulevard, where you would enter the building, is set 19.7. It's a little more than 2 feet above that flood elevation. The rear of the building on Ocean Avenue sitting much lower than that. It's about 13.5. It's about 6 feet below the front elevation. The basement, there's an in and out access. There's parking on the first floor level and the basement as well. The basement sits at about 7.5. As far as kind of a flood strategy, there are going to be floodgates, manual system along the back, along Ocean Avenue. There's a couple of pedestrian doors, as well as the 2 garage doors. Those will all have the floodgates on them. They'll have the grooves. It'll have the grooves in it similar to the seawall out along Revere Beach Boulevard, the grooves that you put the slots in. Critical mechanical elements have all been set at the first floor or higher, so they're a minimum of 2 feet above the flood elevation. With regards to stormwater, the whole site is covered with a roof, and as a result, all that clean roof water is collected and piped to the main out in Ocean Avenue. That's currently where the site drains. It drains off the site onto Ocean and gets into the catch basins. We'll be piping it into Ocean. So being that the site is inland subject to coastal storm flowage, there are no performance standards for pre versus post, but with working with the city engineer, Nick Rystrom, we have agreed to provide some detention in the building to address the smaller storm events. So in conclusion, we feel the project meets the standards and has been designed in accordance with the land subject to coastal storm flowage and the coastal bank buffer as part of the Wetlands Protection Act. At this time, I'd like to open it up to any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, Dan, the commission can see the architectural rendering on the back of the easel. Why don't you show it to the people in the audience so they get an idea of what it's going to look like in elevation? Any questions or comments from the commission? Member LaValle.
Yes, thank you. Hi. Couple of questions. Those gates that you described, that would be from wave action just in case an event occurred that water would be coming across the boulevard? Is that?
It would be from Ocean.
It's between the sidewalk and the entrance.
Yeah, yes. It would be part of the door system. They'd be able to slide the gates into the door system to get it above the flood elevation. It's on Ocean Avenue. That's the lower road.
Okay, so they would be there to prevent water from
getting
an
in the
event
building.
where water was coming up on the boulevard then, correct?
Well, it's
This is only when an emergency occurs. It's not going to be a regular.
That's correct. That's correct. It's only in an emergency event where Ocean Avenue would be flooding.
And of course, when this occurs, there would be no egress at that point.
That's correct. The egress would be out on Revere Beach Boulevard, which sits 2 feet above the flood elevation.
Okay, did you want, I'm sorry,
Yeah, it's on Ocean Ave, the floodgates. Because the landslide coastal storm flowage is on Ocean Ave. It's not on the boulevard. The boulevard's high enough to be out of that area. It's in a zone X. 2% chance every 500 years prediction.
okay. Next question. Right now, that property slopes to the rear, correct?
Correct.
Your first floor for parking would be, when it's finished, the same elevation that it is now, or would you be digging, be even lower than it is right now in the rear of the building?
So they'll be parking on 2 levels, but one of them will be the basement, and there will be a ramp down, so it will be dug down from where it is now for the lower level of
So it would
parking.
be lower than the ground that exists in the rear of the property?
That's correct.
Next question. When I looked at the artist rendering from the boulevard side, on the left-hand side, I'm not sure what that structure was. It doesn't look like it's part of your building. It looks like the next building. I have no idea what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's just the existing multifamily building to the south.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else in the commission? Question or comment? Stormwater. You mentioned that you're draining to Ocean Ave. I know recently, a month, 5 weeks or so ago, we had a significant rainstorm, and that section of Ocean Ave was flooded.
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked at the capacity of the drainage system there to accept additional flow?
So what we're doing is we're working with the city engineer. He expressed that concern as well about capacity. So we're going to reduce the amount so it's at or below what is currently draining off the site.
That's not the city's drain system, though. It's DCR who's responsible for Ocean Ave, I believe.
And we're working with DCR. We'll be submitting plans to them. But when we met with the city engineer, that was one of his comments. So we'll be
Have you
reducing.
obtained your permits from DCR at this point for a connection for a driveway curb cut?
We have not. That process has started. That's one of the conditions of the site plan review. We've started the conversations with them. We haven't received approval yet.
What other approvals are you waiting on?
We're waiting on that, and then I feel like a final sign-off from the design board as well, and then final approval from the city engineer and DPW.
You are aware that you should have all those before you even come to the commission. It's recommended by DEP to have all your approval except building permit. With design review, I suppose that could be part of the building permit, but you should have your DCR permits in place already.
Okay, I was unaware of that, but
Anybody in the audience would like to speak in favor or opposed to this project? Bob?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Bob O'Brien. I'm Director of Economic Development for the City of Revere. And I would just repeat that, in fact, this has received approval from both site plan review as well as unanimous approval from the City Council. But as was indicated, site plan review conditions included not just review and approval by the Conservation Commission, but also by the Revere Beach Design Review Board. A presentation has been made on this project to the Revere Beach Design Review Board. Their suggestion and requirement, indeed, in addition to site plan review committee, was to meet with DCR, because much of the property is DCR property, sidewalk and roadways in particular. That meeting was held last week. It was a very positive and productive meeting. Specifically discussed where the permits that you have suggested would be required. I think they will be following in due course, but before it can be finally approved by the city, it also requires the affirmative action by the Revere Beach Design Review Board, which is not yet complete. So I just want to make sure it has been reviewed and approved to the extent that it could be, but there are still some approvals
Okay,
yet to come.
yeah, if there's changes, significant changes, you'd have to come back to us if we issue tonight. Anybody else? What's the will of the commission on this? I prepared an order of conditions.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by member Nick Malason, seconded by member Vincent Laurier, to close the public hearing and issue an order of condition. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Voted in the affirmative.
Thank you very much.
Who should I send this to? JBX?
JBX is fine, or Bowler, either one.
Okay.
Yep.
Send it to JBX?
Yep,
Okay. Here you go.
thanks again.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, 320, 327 Revere Beach Boulevard, Ash Family Limited Partnership. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by motion by Nick Malason, seconded by member Robert Cassidy. All those in favor of opening the public hearing? Approved.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Richard Bennett.
I need something first, Rich. We
Oh,
opened
sorry.
it, but I'm going to close it right away.
What's that?
Get a check?
Oh,
Can I run down after the hearing, bring up? It's in my car.
I don't know, Rick. All right.
I'm not sure I trust him, but you've known him longer than me, Mr. Chairman. I don't know. I tell you what, I will go down with him. How's
Okay.
that? All right? For the record, Richard Bennett, here on behalf of the applicant also.
Just before you start, Richard, there's a little bit of a controversy about notice, and Richard's going to speak about that. And I think David Hesse from the Condo Association would like to also speak about that. So we'll first discuss that, and that'll determine whether we're going to move forward with the public hearing or continue the public hearing. It'll be up to the board to make that decision. Go ahead, Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I promise that, I believe it or not, I was not going to speak. It's a technical delineation. I was going to let the engineer and the wetlands biologist speak with you, but yeah, there was a question that came up regarding the notice, and I asked if I could just take a couple minutes in part to address you, and also the St. George condominium at least I've spoken with them, and I just wanted to walk through everything to clarify and make sure there weren't any misunderstandings. We have, and I have here, you're welcome to them, the certified mailings, and you have the affidavit from Mr. Salvo, who sent the mailings, one of which was to the Board of Managers, right here. It shows receipted. Again, I'm happy to give you everything. Board of Managers of the St. George Seaside Condominium Beach Club Association, 350 Revere Beach Boulevard, Revere, Mass. And Rick signed the affidavit saying he sent it. He
Can I
did
have
send it.
those?
Sure.
In the affidavit?
Yep. And I did speak with the Board of Managers who said they didn't receive it. Just to back up a little bit further, under the, and I apologize if I'm going over ground, you folks already know, under the Wetlands Act, in 1994, when they adopted the new act, the act states that the quote owner, meaning the legal owner, is the one who receives notice under the Wetlands Act. That's different from 40A and other permitting. The owner, a legal owner of the condominium, is the condominium trustees, which is the Board of Managers. Therefore, and I'm happy to give you the wetlands, the DEP guidance, which they adopted more than 20 years ago, for the record, and it's highlighted, I believe it's number 14, it is.
I've got a copy of it, Rick.
And because it's one of those confusing things, I actually made sure with the assessor and also the city solicitor, that everybody was in agreement regarding the statute and that we complied with the DEP guidance. You have a copy of the attested abutters list. You have a copy of the mailings to show we sent it out. Inadvertently, I'm told, because a couple of the Board of Managers of the St. George had told us that a couple of individuals also received notice or received notice. I'm not sure why, to be honest. My guess is that at the same time we pulled that, we sort of over-noticed. At the same time we pulled that list, we pulled the broader list just because we were down there getting it. That was a list that's required for the actual permitting of a project. That requires notice to all of the unit owners. To be honest, we saved $1,200, give or take, by not having to give the notice for this and then give the notice on the actual project. Procedurally, and again, I'm speaking probably more for people behind me, and this is just, I wanted to say this personally. We sat down with the board at the St. George and sort of gave them a heads up, got their thoughts, and I had promised them before that we came to a final plan and filed it in any application that we would show it to them. And what bothered me was I got some feedback, oh, you're trying to slip something by. And I know you people on the commission obviously know this is just literally a delineation of where the resource areas are. And we need that in order to be able to finalize any development ideas for the site. And as it was pointed out to me not too long ago, heck, you guys might say, in essence, we can't do a development there. So obviously you're a prerequisite for us doing that. I wanted to just clarify, because again, it bothered me that somebody would think we were, after making a promise that we'd sit down and show them we're happy to do it. Going on the record in this public forum, we definitely will, again, before filing it even, so before there's a public record of it within this building. But we first need you guys to tell us that the lines we've drawn within which we believe we can cite a project are accurate, are okay, and if there's a modification, that could dramatically change what, if anything, we could do there. So just, I wanted to get up and give everybody assurance that, number one, we did send it out, we gave notice. I was very pleased. I guess I'm glad that we inadvertently over-noticed, because I did see at least a couple of the board members here, so they did receive the actual notice. But again, that's a process and procedure, and it bothered me when somebody suggested we were trying to slide something by. We most definitely weren't. And I stand by the promise that anything we're going to do there, we'll go to the people, the abutters, including most definitely the St. George, before we actually file any applications. And I wanted to go on the record for me personally just to say that. So anyway, I think legally we gave adequate notice. I know it complied with the Wetlands Act. I see the people that would have been noticed. I don't know why, if the post office didn't deliver it or whatever. I can't speak to that. We've given you evidence, we sent it out. So I think there's adequate notice. I'm comfortable that if you act, we'll receive a valid ORAD. But obviously, as Andy said, it's your evaluation. Ultimately, but that's it. And again, I wanted to give the public assurance regarding we're not coming in to show you guys any project. We're coming in to find out if we can do a project. Once we figure that out, we most definitely are going to tell everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Would you like to be next, David?
Hi, my name is David Hesse from 350 Revere Beach Boulevard.
Try to speak up, David.
Yeah, hi, I'm sorry. My name is David Hesse from 350 Revere Beach Boulevard. I'm a member of the Board of Directors at the condominium. Just want to speak a little bit about the notification. First of all, we never did receive a copy of the notification. We were under the impression that we were supposed to, every individual unit owner was going to get notification on this. That was until it was brought to our attention today that the Wetlands Act had changed so that only the association was supposed to get notification. That never really did happen. What they showed us tonight was the pink copy. They didn't show the green copy that was returned to them, showing sort of, a signature from anybody that did receive it. We do have a 24-hour concierge the same mailman has come to the building for a number of years, and that would have, if someone had received it, someone would have signed for it, and the green card would have been returned to them with someone's signature on it. They didn't produce that today. I don't know if they have it or not, but all they did produce was the green stamp thing when someone brought it to the post office. And I guess they did produce an affidavit to you that says that they did send it. I'd like to get a copy of that if I could tonight. They did say they would give that to us, but they did not produce the green card that shows that someone signed for it when it was
No, there's
delivered.
none having signed for it.
Okay,
that I
but they,
saw.
but just, for everyone's edification, they did not produce that, so there is no proof to us, and I don't believe that, we have not, at least at this point, seen something that shows that anyone from the St. George signed for it. And I did speak to all the concierge people who work on the day shift, and with Gene, our on-site property manager, and he's, according to him, no one has ever seen that. We've never seen it at all. I checked with everyone in the office, and no one in the office has seen it, and no one on the board of directors has seen it either. Also, to clarify that, when you said that people from the board were here, I'm here right now, but I did not receive any notice of it or anything like that. I'm here because we saw the notice of it advertised in the newspaper. So we weren't called by anyone on, told to be here because of the hearing. No one from the developers told us that the hearing was going to be held tonight. What was the other thing? David. It's notification. Let's see. David.
Take your time, David.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It's just. So, so the other thing, in terms of the individual person that did get notified, that also was part of the conversation. We talked about them trying to slip something by us. That was really not our intention was not to imply that. It was just that one person in the condominium that we know of did in fact get certified mail return receipt requested that she received. She's a person who's a personal friend of mine. That the St. George is not even her permanent address. She lives out in the western part of the state and uses this as a sort of a vacation residence. And it was sent. The notice was sent to her in her home in Western Massachusetts, and she did receive the notice sent to her at that address, not to her home here at the St. George. So that's how the board of directors found out that these notices were even being sent. And she was walking around in her section of the building showing it to people, asking if they had received it. That's how it actually came even to my attention and to other members of the board that these notices were being sent. And I was aware of it because I had seen the notice in the paper. And that's how the other board members of the condominium found out about the meeting being held tonight as well. It was from her because she was notified by certified mail, not because we were. So that's why I'm here tonight, just to make note of that. And I did call and ask them about it, and that's when we found out about the change in the law, the update on the Wetlands, and the Wetlands Act, that law was changed in 1994. So there is a lot of confusion about it. We're not here to complain about anything except the notification and the way it was done. And just to make point of it, and also to get a copy of the green card if we could, or at least the affidavit saying that they did in fact send it to the St. George, so that we would know, because I'm sure a lot of our members, our unit owner members, are going to be wondering why we didn't in fact post it in the building, because if it had been, I'm sure the place would have been filled with interested unit owners to see what was going on, because they don't know anything that's going on here, and naturally the ownership would be very interested to know. So thank you very much.
Would you like to state an opinion as to whether we should continue with this hearing, or continue it for a month, or hold it now? Do you have any feel for what the Board of Trustees would desire?
We just found out about this really so recently, I'm not sure. I don't know, it's a hard question to ask just one individual board
You don't
member.
have to answer it.
I think I would leave it up to you folks. I mean, the people weren't notified. They, before everyone in the building expected to be notified. I think the feeling of the people in the building would probably like to know what was going on. It's only fair to them. They've all had a huge investment in the building, and I think people would like to know what's going on.
You go ahead, Rick.
I think this city councilor here from Ward
Yep,
5 is here
yeah.
too. He would probably definitely have an opinion on that too.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
his
gonna
opinion
ask
would be
for
very important.
John to
I
speak
think,
and
I also
Rosalie, if
think,
she'd like to.
I also think Representative Vincent is here. She's not only our representative,
Yep.
but she's also a resident in the building. I think her
Yep,
opinion would
I'm
be as
aware of that.
valuable as mine. So I think that between the three of us, maybe we could come to an opinion if you'd allow me to sort
Yep,
of huddle with them,
simply-
and then we could decide. That would be
Okay,
good.
all right, if you're willing to do that.
That would be great.
If I could point one thing out to you, David, and everybody else here. Absolutely, there's no question before anything is done on the site or anything's proposed for the site. This hearing is only about literally resource area delineation, which really doesn't affect, it could be done to pave a parking lot. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, I understand your
it's-
argument,
yeah.
Rick, but I'm sure you're aware that if it's decided to continue it, it's
Yep.
1 month. If we move forward and it gets appealed, it's 4 to 6 months.
But the point I wanted to make to David and the others is, we will be back in here maybe in a month, but we will definitely be back in here. Everybody has the ability to come in, see what it would be proposed. They have the ability to participate in the process. This is really just, again, it's more of a ministerial act to allow us, but it's not as though they'd be foreclosed the opportunity to participate. We can't get any
I
project approved
fully
without
understand
it.
what you're saying, but David's proposed something. If you're,
No, that was mainly for David and them. I know you knew. I just wanted to point out, so I wanted to make sure they were aware. There will be a full hearing on any project, assuming we file for one, if we go forward with it.
so let's give them an opportunity,
Sure.
Rick, to discuss it if they're willing to discuss it. John, you want to speak? Come right up. Councilor Powers.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I don't live in the St. George, certainly, but I do represent the area as a city councilor. I think there's so much controversy in the city right now when any building or development is proposed. People have questions, people have valid concerns about traffic, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I realize this has nothing to do with traffic. Again, I think people tend to get the impression that something is happening, they're not being notified, and they want to be notified. People have a right to be notified. And what I'm going to suggest is that the hearing be continued. In the interim, that the attorneys for the proponent schedule a meeting in the building itself, in the community room at the St. George. Have the board of the St. George post those meetings so that everyone has a right to come down and ask questions, even though those questions don't relate to traffic or other things that are going to happen down the road. But I think this should be an open process for everyone, particularly the residents down there. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Rosalie, would you like to speak?
I'll be very brief. I just found out. Hi, Rosalie Vincent, 350 Revere Beach Boulevard, St. George, and also the state representative. I knew nothing at all about this project or anything that's happening. Unfortunately, when you send it to the board of directors or the board of trustees, it doesn't always trickle down to the unit owners, so I have a real problem with that. I think that in the future, I think everything needs to be posted. Unfortunately, it doesn't trickle down to the unit owners, and I would not leave notifications to the Board of Managers. So my suggestion would be, and I agree with Councilor Powers, I think that we should have meetings in the St. George. We abut this property, and I think it's important that unit owners and not just the Board of Trustees make decisions when it comes to this building. And I'm hoping to advocate for the unit owners in the St. George. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalie. Anybody else in the audience would like to speak on this? Board, what is your wish on this?
I just want to make a motion to table until next month. I think for them to be a good neighbor to those
Okay.
residents, they should
So we
notify
have
every
a
one of them,
motion by
despite what the
member-
law says, which they did
Nick
do.
Malayson to table to December 6th. Do we have a second? That was Vincent Laria, seconded by Vincent Laria. All those in favor? Any opposed? So voted. So get your notification done, and we'll see you in December.
Well, as a point of clarity, if we, will coordinate with the Board of Directors to make sure it's posted within the building.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and also for the record, we, hopefully the board will back me up here, we already had made arrangements, we're more than happy to sit down with the, that was our intention, we always, once we have a project, which hopefully we'll shortly, to propose to you guys, to show you, we had always planned to do that, and had already begun that process, so we have absolutely no problem with sitting down with everybody over there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
David, I sent Joni a copy of that affidavit. Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda is a vote on a certificate of compliance, 1330 Broadway. Is Alba Dodo in the audience?
Good evening.
Introduce yourself, Alba.
My name is Alba Dotto, and I represent James and Diane Roach, who are the owners of 1330 Broadway in Revere. They are planning to sell that property, and there's an open order of conditions from 2000 that was never released. I believe the work was for the planting of shrubbery in the area. I just want to point out that that work was never done, was not completed, even though there were plans submitted. There were plans for shrubbery and a driveway to be paved, but the driveway was not allowed because of the coastal area, and so the planting was never done. But the compliance certificate was never released. And just, I wanted to point out also that in the Conservation Commission agenda, the address is incorrect. It's 1330, not 1030.
Yes, I made that correction and
Thank
updated
you.
the agendas. I had noticed that.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Dodo? Do you know where this property is? It's used to be a lobster pound when they built it, and now it's some sort of contracting firm. It's on 107, all by itself. So do I have a motion to approve the
I'll make a motion.
motion by Nick Malayson? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Robert Cassidy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll make a copy and send you the original, Alba.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a vote certificate of compliance, 67 Standish Road. Paul?
Good evening, Paul Finocchio, PJF and Associates. I'm here on behalf of Standish Road Nominee Trust, Carmen Martinetti, who's the trustee, who is here this evening. Mr. Martinetti is requesting a certificate of compliance on a property located at 67 Standish Road. This is a project that was approved originally back in 2016 by this board. It was a three-lot subdivision that went through both Board of Appeals and through this office. The original order of conditions was appealed by the DEP for stating that the property fell in the title, was subject to the Rivers Protection Act with respect to Sales Creek. And we had met with both DEP and MEPR several times in the process, and we came up with a revised plan, and we had come back before this board and received an amended order of conditions. And that order got recorded at the Registry of Deeds. After that was done, DEP came back and said the project was not subject to their requirements of title and historic waterfront properties, and that they remanded back to the original order of conditions and the original plans that were recorded, that were presented to the board. So what we're doing is we came back and constructed the site, the first lot, which is number 67 Standish Road, to those original plans that were submitted with the original order of conditions. One thing that is a problem is that the original order of conditions is not recorded at the Registry of Deeds. The superseding order of conditions is the one that was recorded. I should say the amended order of conditions is the one that's on record. So there's a problem with respect that we don't have that original order as being filed with the Registry of Deeds. We were given the recorded, and that one was recorded in March, I believe, of 2017.
That's what I have on the,
And that one refers to the final plans that are approved after DEP's appeal. So it should go back to the original order of conditions that were recorded and were written up in 2016,
okay.
not the amended order of
What's
conditions.
the date on that, Paul?
The original order of conditions was dated March 7, 2016.
Yeah, so I just made a note.
Okay.
And
So with
we'll
that,
do that. And it's
So-
only a partial that you're getting because there's two other buildings.
correct. Correct. So there'd be a partial for lot 3 is what we're requesting tonight. And that building
I got that
is,
as lot 25.
well, it's known as lot 3. It's because of,
Well, Carmen told me lot 25, Paul.
it,
Yes,
it's-
Carmen, hi. Didn't recognize you back there with the hat.
Lot 25 is the single lot, which is what I thought, Lot 3 is the lot for the new subdivision.
So it should be lot 3?
It's,
Okay, that's not a problem.
yeah, it's lot 3 of the subdivision. It's lot 3 of the subdivision,
That's
lots
recorded.
24 and
Okay, yeah, that's no
25
problem.
of assessors.
I just want to make sure I had everything
Okay.
right on the
Yep.
front page, but I can change that, that's no
Okay.
problem.
So the plan that was submitted before you shows the existing construction of the two-family duplex. The site is complete, it's been seeded, so there's grass down. The used landscape pavers as access into the driveway and also as for parking. There are 2 parking spaces underneath the structure, one on each side of the, in front of the unit and one to the left of the unit. There are 6 foundation openings in the buildings that were on the original plan. And basically, the site is in conformance, meeting the requirements of the original order of conditions. We both show what was existing spot grades out there and what's final spot grades. The original spot grades were in a, pre-construction spot grades were in a box, and the final as-builts are just, as a number is like 3x2 as a final grade out there. So they are within a few inches of what was pre and post-construction.
Anything else?
That's it.
Any questions for Paul? I have a certificate of compliance prepared. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
That was Vince? All those in favor signify by saying aye to grant the certificate. Thank you, Paul.
All right, great, thank you.
Yeah, I'll take a copy, send you the original copy. Next item on the agenda is vote for certificate of compliance, 22 Loomis Street. Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, good evening. I'm Ann McMenemy from Hancock Associates.
Say your name again, please.
Ann McMenemy.
And
A-N-N,
A-M.
M-C, capital M, and then the word enemy, E-N-E-M-Y.
You lost me.
I'll give you my business.
I don't write that
I'll
fast.
give you my business card.
Oh, okay, that's great. Thank you, Ann.
Okay.
Oh, McEnemy.
McMenemy. Okay, I'm Ann McMenemy, professional wetland scientist here representing the applicant, Dion Krieger, who is also here with me this evening. This is a certificate of compliance for an order of conditions that was issued in 2015 for the construction of a single-family home on a lot that is completely within coastal land subject to storm flowage. What was on the lot prior to the permitted construction was a grass fenced in and a dilapidated empty swimming pool. We have done an as-built survey that you have before you and I have up on the board. There were three very minor deviations in our engineering certification. There's some pictures for the first one. The deck on the rear of the house was built slightly wider than proposed. But that's not on the ground, it's on pilings, so it doesn't change its footprint in the resource area. The stairs on the deck were built on the southeast side of the deck rather than the proposed northwest side. And then out front, the stairs in the front of the house were reconfigured so that they have a slightly different configuration that's angled landings. So since, even though land subject to coastal storm flowage doesn't have any performance standards, we had proposed compensatory flood storage when we permitted this. And with the different configuration of the stairs, it equals an additional 300 cubic feet. But our proposed and constructed compensatory flood storage volume was 2,400, so we're still less than that with the amount of fill on the lot at 2,070.
Okay.
And the only other thing I'd say is that was important for being in the flood zone is that the smart vents on the house are all installed and have been verified and located on the survey.
Yep, it looks a very nice structure.
Yeah.
Looks nice. Okay, I have a certificate of compliance.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Nick.
Second.
Second by Vin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Okay, we'll get this signed.
Okay.
And,
Could you send the original to
you got
me?
your building permit? Your occupancy? I'll sign that.
Okay, great. Will you send the original to me, please, of the
Send it to
certificate?
you.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
There you go.
There you go. Good luck. Next item on the agenda is a vote certificate of compliance, 770 Washington Ave.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Orzel. I'm a senior wetland scientist with Wetlands Preservation.
Thank you.
Just to give a quick review of the project, a partial certificate of compliance was issued by the Commission back in February of this year to allow a temporary occupancy permit to be issued. At that point, the only remaining items to be finished at the site were final paving and installation of a fence. And I do have some photographs. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to go out to the site.
Yeah, if you want to pass them to the members, so they can take a look. I go by that site all the time.
So as you can see in the photos, final paving has been done. I think photographs in the stapled copy numbers 3, 4, and 5 show the fence. And also I think several of the photos indicate that the site is clearly stabilized, the grass has come in, landscaping planting's all been finished. We have submitted an elevation certificate on the as-built, indicating that the final The first floor elevation is above the flood elevation. Certification letter from Paul Finocchio indicates there are only two minor changes from the site plans to the as-built plans, and that is that the dumpster and recycling bins are located inside the structure, and that the parking area to the rear of the building was shifted back about 5 feet due to an inconsistency in the plans, the architectural plans and the site plan. Other than that, everything is in compliance.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rozell? I prepared a certificate of compliance. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
That Vin or Robert? Robert. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll send you the signed certificate. I'll send it to Dana. How you doing, Dana? Good. Last item on the agenda is a vote for request for extension of order conditions. DEP file number 0610654, drainage improvements, Copeland Circle. This is the one I forgot last meeting. So you have a vote, a motion,
I'll make a motion.
second?
I'll second.
Second by Vin Laura. All those in favor? Any opposed? Voted. You go next. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Who was that?
Either or. One of us will second it.
We'll do Vin for a change of pace. Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Adjourned at 7:52.